My name is Alexis Davis. I'm the social media manager here at RSDSA. I'm joined by Jim Broach, Executive Vice President and Director of RSDSA, and our second session speaker this evening, Tracy Coval. Tracy is a writer, artist, disability advocate, and a therapeutic art life coach based in Massachusetts. She received her bachelor's degree from Lesley University, studying counseling with a minor in art therapy. She then worked in the mental health field, primarily with high-risk populations, including inpatient psychiatric units, emergency room, and a homeless shelter for children in state custody. In her work, she utilized the creative arts to help patients de-escalate and express their emotions. She then pursued a master's degree in social work and chose to change career paths after becoming paralyzed. She sought to incorporate the creative arts to spread her message about disability advocacy. In 2019, Tracy was given the opportunity to speak at a national medical conference presenting why the fine arts should be used in the medical field. In 2021, she published her first book, An Untethered Truth, A Medical Journey. The book is about Tracy's personal journey with devastating and life-threatening spinal conditions from birth and how she learned through faith, hope, and humor to advocate for herself through numerous operations, medical diagnoses, and misdiagnoses. Tracy provides a guide for finding one's voice in a complicated medical world and finding support and resources for those living with disabilities. And we are definitely excited and thankful to have Tracy here this evening. So be sure to leave your comments and questions in the chat for Tracy throughout this discussion. And then I also see that Jim has, I think Jim has changed clothes from the last session.
Alexis, thanks for asking. I have my second cap tonight. This is our white one. If you like white better than orange, I like orange because that's our color. But I'm really excited, and this is in our store, and you could do that. But I also wanted to say that Alexis had mentioned that Tracy was a trusted volunteer for us for a number of years on our Jenkins Patient Assistance Committee, and she went beyond everything in helping us to really help people, not just with money, but connecting with resources across the country. Tracy, I'm grateful for that. And we miss you.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, thank you for having me, Jim. It was always a pleasure working with you guys on the committee, and I hope to continue to do more work with you guys. So thank you for the introduction.
Of course.
I truly appreciate it. If you want to put the first slide, I appreciate your introduction because now we have one less slide to do. All right. We got it. Okay. So today I'm going to be talking about an untethered truth, optimizing one's wellness. My name is Tracy Coval, and I'm really excited to be here today. Next slide. So I feel like Alexis gave a great sum up of who I am, so we're just going to skip to the next slide. Thank you. The focus of this presentation is treating the whole person and the importance of optimizing your wellness. I will be talking about strategies for taking care of your health, advocating for yourself, finding community and support systems, and the blessings of humor and gratitude. I'll be talking about strategies for taking care of your health, advocating for yourself, finding community and support systems, and the blessings of humor and gratitude. I will also talk about the steps it takes to write and publish a book. Next slide. I recently published my first book, An Untethered Truth, A Medical Journey. An Untethered Truth, A Medical Journey is about the importance of self-advocacy, especially with our often broken healthcare system. It focuses on treating the whole person and the importance for optimizing your wellness. Next slide. As a child, I grew up living with chronic pain. In 2002, I was 11 years old when I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome. In 2018, I learned that this condition was a misdiagnosis. In reality, it was actually spina bifida occulta, which is the malformation of one or more vertebrae. Tether cord syndrome, which is when the spinal cord attached to the surrounding tissues in the spine. This prevents the spinal column the spinal cord from moving in keeping with lengthening up the spine as it grows. Searing on my lilia. This is a disorder where there's fluid-filled cysts within the spinal cord. Over time, the searings can get bigger and cause spinal cord damage as well. In addition, I have a misaligned spine and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a genetic connective tissue disorder. Next slide. The birth defects mimic the neurological condition medical providers were convinced I once had. I was 27 when I learned this. It is critical to advocate for yourself. While medical expertise is key, it's essential to be an advocate for your own health because, frankly, mistakes are made. My hope in writing an Untethered Truth, a medical journey, is that it be a guide for others in understanding the need for personal advocacy, how to find your voice in a complicated medical world, and how to gain the knowledge to find proper resources needed in life. Next slide. It takes courage. Are we on the right? Oh. Sorry about that. Okay. It takes courage to communicate what you need to succeed. The damage to my spine is significant as it wasn't properly addressed. Over time, I received condolences from numerous medical professionals, all telling me this could have been prevented if treated in childhood. I'm partially paralyzed from the waist down with minimal sensation. Both legs have significant deformities. At one point, I was facing double amputation of my feet. From 2017 to now, I had 10 surgeries to try to reverse the damage. Unfortunately, the surgical interventions aren't over. Next slide. When I first learned the truth about my health, I was devastated. It felt like a nightmare that I couldn't wake from. I was furious, wanting to know how this went on for so long without proper treatment. I needed to forgive what had occurred and move forward with my life. Both were challenges for me. It's easy to get stuck on what has happened to us in the past. The pain and suffering can stay with us. It can be hard to let go of that pain, sometimes allowing the tragedy to consume our lives. Next slide. Healing is a lifelong process. It's about adapting and thinking outside the box. The creative arts have been one of my biggest strengths, and I leaned on this form of expression to help me heal. Art and writing allow me to express the emotions I may be experiencing. It took time to recognize I could turn my pain into something powerful and beautiful. Next slide. This piece was painted after I looked at a candid photo that a friend took of me. This was the day that I had found out that there was a major misdiagnosis. And then instead of having complex regional pain syndrome, it was all the birth defects that mimicked what we all thought. At that moment, I was devastated and defeated. And I chose to use black and white to show the pain that I was feeling. You can see there's a dog resting his head on my arms. He was feeling the sadness and giving me compassion to make me feel better. This is the exact moment of when reality was sinking in of this is real. This isn't a dream. Next slide. Burnout and exhaustion. This is something we all experience, no matter what our profession is and whatnot. Every person can experience burnout. And for me personally, I was struggling and being burnt out and exhausted for fighting for my health and screaming and making sure I was heard. And it reminded me of like a wind-up toy. And that's where the crank comes in, is you wind, and in the morning, you wind yourself up. And as the day keeps going, you keep going lower and lower and lower. And that's how I felt about the situation. This is made using acrylics, and the piece before that was also acrylics. Next slide. My purpose in making this speech and writing my book is not to bash the medical system or any provider. While we are fortunate to have a good healthcare system, it's broken in many places. We all make mistakes, including doctors. That's part of being human. Thus, it's critical to advocate for yourself. Your voice matters. In society, we look to medical professionals for guidance, hoping to find resolutions to health issues or to get a proper diagnosis. We don't always get the answers or guidance that we hope for and deserve. Next slide. I've learned in these cases, it's okay to feel angry or disappointed. But instead of expressing that anger towards a specific specialist, it's better to take a step back, learn from it, and move forward. I have forgiven all the parties that were contributing factors to my ongoing health issues. I don't hold any anger or resentment towards these individuals. I am always committed to medical advocacy, especially when the unthinkable happens, which for me was almost losing both feet and facing the repercussions of birth defects being left untreated until adulthood. I refused to take no for an answer, and I was determined. I researched relevant providers and educated myself on the diagnoses. Next slide. The healing for me has been through faith, hope, laughter, and art. Grit and determination also have helped me get to where I am today. Remember, you are far more than a label, a diagnosis, or an acronym. I've realized my disability can be a gift. I couldn't do this alone, and I'm thankful for my support systems. It's true that it takes a village to succeed. Without a doubt, taking care of your health, advocating for yourself, finding community support systems, and the blessings of humor and gratitude will help chart your path towards wellness. Next slide. I apologize for the dogs barking in the background for the tantrums they're having. Just rather acknowledge and we can move forward. Okay. According to a study that was performed at Johns Hopkins, roughly 12 million U.S. citizens are misdiagnosed each year. Misdiagnoses can be detrimental to one's physical, mental, and emotional health. It's important to practice self-care. Take the time and take care of yourself. Do what makes you happy and feel good. Next slide. Self-care doesn't have to cost a dime. It could be exercising, taking a walk, taking a bath or a hot shower, reading a book. It is not selfish to make yourself a priority. If you don't take care of yourself, how can you help others? Next slide. Self-care doesn't have to look the same way for everyone. Every day you can do something different for self-care. One day it may be doing an hour workout, and the next day you're washing your face. Our disabilities are dynamic. Symptoms are constantly changing day to day. Our self-care practices have to adapt along with our disabilities. Next slide. Nourish your body. Make sure you are sleeping, eating, drinking water, and moving your body. If this even feels like too much, it might be good to get in touch with a therapist that can help you. Next slide. There are many databases to help find a therapist. One of them is Good Therapy. You can search for a therapist in your area who provides telehealth. Another option is Psychology Today. This is another option where you can look for psychiatrists, treatment centers, and support groups that are in your area. and you can also look for therapists. Another resource is ZocDoc. It's a database where you can search for providers for a specific health condition, whether it is physical and or mental health. Next slide. If you look at the back of your health insurance card, there's a phone number and or a website that will list providers who are covered by your insurance. You can also reach out to your primary care doctor and to help find providers. Next slide. Advocate for yourself. Meeting with a new doctor is always stressful and can feel overwhelming. It's easy to forget talking about specific concerns or ask questions when the nerves kick in. When meeting with a new provider, one thing that can be helpful is to provide a printed document that gives a summary of your medical history, why you're meeting with them, and any questions or concerns you have. Next slide. I recommend printing 3 copies, one for the resident and or PA, one for the doctor, and one for yourself. By doing this, you can go through the document together, and your questions and concerns are in front of you. Ask if this printed form can be put in your chart. This document will help your provider have a better understanding of your situation. Consider using the patient portal to communicate with your doctor. This is helpful if you forget something or want to update the doctor. Next slide. So, what do you write? Some of the things should include giving a synopsis of your situation. Why are you meeting with this provider today? Explain what's been going on. How long has this been occurring? Next slide. Describe your symptoms. It's helpful beforehand to come up with adjectives that feel representative of your experience. Does it burn? Is it tingly? How frequent are your symptoms? Does it come and go? Are they all the time? Has the frequency changed? Next slide. So continuing to describe your symptoms. How long have you been experiencing these symptoms? Days, weeks, months? What makes your symptoms better? It could be heat, resting, medication, stretching. And I know with RSD, heat is not a great thing, and ice, but just giving some examples of what you could put down. And what makes them worse? Is it stress? Is it barometric pressure? Is it certain movements? Next slide. What treatments have you tried previously? Was it medications, physical therapy, acupuncture, chiropractic, pool therapy? Did it help? If so, which ones? Next slide. List different questions and concerns you have, including but not limited to potential medications that could help, treatment options, research articles about the specific disorders. The treatment options, for example, it could be physical therapy, occupational therapy, or non-pharmacological options. Next slide. Diagnoses. What are your diagnoses? You want to break this down. So, what are they? And who diagnosed you? And when were you given this diagnosis? If you can, provide the month and year. Provide a brief synopsis if you have any rare conditions and diseases. And the reason I say that is often when someone hears the term CRPS, RSD, someone may say, I've heard of it, so I think I get it, but in reality, they may not be sure. So it's good to give like a 1 or 2 sentence sum up of here's what it is. Next slide. So Before your appointment, talk to immediate family members about your medical history within your family. Many doctors will ask this question, and it's information that could guide your diagnosis journey. And it's important to do this because talking to your family may help connect the dots to what is going on with you. Is it a predisposition? Is it on your mother's side? Is it on your father's side? And it's definitely important to think about that and provide that information. Next slide. Diagnostic test and results. It also couldn't hurt to have a list of most recent images and tests with the month and year they were done. This is helpful if your new doctor doesn't receive or review all of your records prior to your appointment. That way, nothing is unnecessarily repeated. Next slide. Be well versed in other doctors' options or comments relating to these tests and where they plan to go from there. It isn't uncommon for doctors to communicate with each other directly. Therefore, the new doctor may ask you questions about your plan of care rather than going to your other specialists for this information. Next slide. Can you record the doctor's appointment? There's an app called Abridge, and this allows you to record your doctor's appointment, and it pulls out key points like diagnoses or medical tests, so you have record of what was discussed. Please make sure you get your doctor's consent to record it. Most doctors are okay with it. Knowing this app helps with continuation of care and compliance with anything they are instructed you to do after the appointment. Next slide. Medications. This is something really important, and it's going to take some time to do it, but it's going to be very helpful. So the biggest thing is, what medications are you taking? And you want to give both prescription and over-the-counter meds, and that includes supplements. So provide the name of the medication. What is the dose and frequency that you take it? What are the medications used for? Who is specifically prescribing them? So for an example, Tylenol. So it would be 500 milligrams every 4 to 6 hours. And you have to make sure you don't exceed over 3,000 milligrams in a 24-hour span. You're using it for pain, and the pain doctor recommended it. I couldn't think of a good doctor's name, so I thought about Dr. McDreamy, but then I don't know if a lot of people understand that reference, so you get the drift. Next slide. Allergies. This is very important. So you want to list all of your allergies: food, pets, environmental, smells, anything and everything. What type of a reaction do you have? Are you allergic or sensitive to any medication? If you do, what kind of reaction do you have? That could be something where it's hives. That could be something where it's hard to breathe, where it's anaphylaxis. So it's really important that you write all of that down. Next slide. Surgeries. List all that you've had in the past. What type of surgery? When did you have it? If you don't know the specific date, that's okay. Provide the month and year of when it occurred. Next slide. Trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right or you feel like you're not being heard, use your voice and speak up for yourself. Medical professionals aren't mind readers, so it's essential you advocate what you're experiencing. I know it can be hard to advocate for yourself, and it will take practice. You can do it. Next slide. When preparing for an appointment with a specialist, take your time and educate yourself on the conditions that may be occurring. Research the provider you are meeting with. What is their specialty? What is their background, education, and experience? If you feel the provider you've met with is not the right fit, get another opinion. You want to feel comfortable with them. Next slide. Don't be afraid to speak up and ask to be referred to a different provider. You are not locked down with that specific doctor. Healthgrades.com is a great resource. It's a database that will help you find a provider who specializes in what you need. Next slide. Get copies of your medical records and imaging. This is really important. You have the right to ask for copies of your medical records and imaging you've had done. Bring the imaging with you to other appointments. This is extremely helpful if you're meeting with a provider who is out of network. This is something that I had to do when I was reaching out to different providers who may have specialized in the different conditions. And I noticed when I brought them, I was taken a little more seriously, and it helped everyone stay organized. And it was almost like a cheat sheet in a way. So I definitely recommend it. Next slide. Finding community and support systems. Living with a disability can feel lonely and isolating. Family and friends can be there for you. However, they don't always understand as they're not in your body. Social media can be a great place to meet others who can empathize with what you're going through. Meeting other people who have the same conditions is empowering. Next slide. If you're looking for support groups, Facebook is a great platform. This is a great place to ask questions, get feedback on various treatment options, and/or get information from others about different providers they have seen. This was really important for helping me find out the right providers I needed when we were questioning if this actually was tether cord. And it was really nice to be able to speak to others and hear their experiences and whatnot. So I definitely recommend it. Instagram and TikTok are other platforms that are great for connecting with others with chronic illnesses. If you go to the search bar on the apps, type in the diagnoses you have or suspected you have. This will provide the top posts from others who also have the same condition. Next slide. Blessings of humor and gratitude. I really hope I'm saying this author's name right. Author Dauvoir once said, "Laughing is and will always be the best form of therapy." Laughter is truly the best medicine. According to the Mayo Clinic, laughter can stimulate organs, including heart, lungs, and muscles. It also increases endorphins that are released in the brain. Humor is a great stress reliever and can help with dealing with hardships. Next slide. Gratitude. We often forget to appreciate the little things in life that we take for granted. When you remind yourself what you're grateful for, it allows you to change your perspective. One thing that can be helpful is writing down what you are grateful for. This is something you can practice daily. You can type this list on your phone or write it in a journal. Next slide. Some examples you can use are having a roof over your head, going outside and feeling the sunshine beaming on your face, supportive family and friends, fuzzy socks, taking a shower, hot shower. Challenge yourself to write down 3 things you are grateful for every day. Fun fact, my favorite thing that I'm grateful for is fuzzy socks. You can't resist. They're always great. Next slide. When life gets tough, stop and remind yourself what you're grateful for. We take the little things in life for granted, something as small as going outside for fresh air. Life is precious. We don't know what tomorrow will bring and must enjoy each day. Next slide. Finding an outlet. When you live with a disability, it's hard to find a way to express yourself. The creative arts are a great outlet where you can share your story. The creative arts doesn't have to be just painting or drawing. It could be music, writing, dance, poetry, fine art, or digital art. Many people want to write books, and I highly encourage it. You should. Next slide. Writing is both therapeutic and cathartic. You have a story, and it needs to be heard. Writing is both therapeutic and cathartic. Apparently, I just wrote these twice. We're just going to emphasize that writing is both therapeutic and cathartic, and your story needs to be heard. So this is the fun fact of please write a book and write. Next slide. Okay, tips for writing a book. The hardest part about writing a book is to figure out where to start. Some things to think about if you're planning to write a book. What do you want the book to be about? Do you want it to be about your life? Do you want to write a book about vampires? You don't know. What genre? A self-help, fiction, nonfiction, romance. Next slide. What are the readers going to take away from it? The biggest thing you need to think about is it's about the readers. It's not about you, it's the readers. So what can the readers learn from this? Is it adapting? Is it being kind? With my book, it was thinking outside the box or talking about it's okay to not be okay with mental health. So think of things like that. And then your next step is to create a timeline. This is extremely helpful with putting information to chronological order. Once you have finished your timeline, you can start writing the chapters. Next slide. So, I'm going to pause here and continue. The slides kind of had a little glitch before I spoke, so I wasn't able to get up the slides, but I have more information I want to share with you about types of publishing. So there's 3 types of publishing. You have traditional publishing, which is when the publisher offers the author a contract where the publishing company will print, publish, and sell your book through retailers. And they're usually big publishing houses. So for example, Penguin Random House is a very big one. Essentially, the publisher is buying out the rights to publish your book. In return, the publishing company will pay you royalties from the sales. So you're losing say into that book. And it often, when people submit their books to a bigger company, it often gets rejected. So that's one type. The next type is hybrid publishing. And that's a combination of both traditional publishing and self-publishing. Typically, the author pays for the cost to produce the book. When you find a publisher, they will take care of the entire process of the book: editing, cover design, proofreading. What is great about the hybrid approach is you have more say. And what I really wanted when it came to writing my book is to be able to have a concept editor who could help me put together my book and outline it and conceptualize it. And then I hired a copyright editor who then comes in and she reads through the entire manuscript from front to back and looking for different grammatical issues, redundancy. She may want more clarifications on things. She may want to rewrite things. And what I loved about that was I had a lot of say still, and you're working with them. So I really loved that my voice was heard and everyone was working together. So you have that. Self-publishing, which is the last one. This is when the author is completing the entire process themselves, which means you're going to print, you're going to edit, you're going to proofread, you're going to format, you're going to cover design and bookmark it. It's all on you. And with that, that can be a bit overwhelming, but many people self-publish. And one resource for when it comes to self-publishing is Amazon. They are incredible, and that's actually what I use when it comes to printing my books. And they do something called a print on demand, where essentially, let's say someone were to buy my book. The offer's gonna go into Amazon, and what happens is instead of Amazon printing it, Amazon's gonna send it to a local printing company that is near you. Once that book has been made, it will then be sent to the person. So that's how it works with it. And throughout my process, I had hired a graphic designer to help with the cover of my book and the layout. And I really believe it's important to at least have an editor or someone to read through everything. You don't rush the process when it comes to writing a book. I started writing my book in 2018, and it took 3 years to publish it. It's a whole process, but it's completely worth it. It's hard, but very healing. And I think it will help you really understand more about yourself and how you've grown from some very difficult circumstances. And with that saying, I will complete this presentation with, we all encounter difficult situations. That's a part of life. On the days you feel like you want to give up, please keep going. Reflect on what you're grateful for. The fight is worth it. Life is precious, and you deserve to enjoy it to the fullest. In sharing my untethered truth, my hope is it might be beneficial in your lives. And now we get to this slide. Well, can we go back to the last slide? Almost there. Let's see. There we go. So where can you purchase my book? You can find it on Amazon, and it's both in paperback and ebook. Feel free to take a look at my website, and you can order my book from there. You can take a look at my artwork. I have blogs on there, and I have different resources people can take a look at. So if you're needing resources to help with finding a therapist or mental health, there will be a link there to find it. If you're needing help for state resources, I provide that as well. So take a look. It could be very beneficial. My email address is here, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'd love to connect with you. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me chat. And I can't wait to answer and hear your questions.
All right. Takes us a second to come back on, but we are here. Thank you so much.
Good work.
Yes.
Thank you.
So many compliments in the chat and a few questions as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. So
Okay.
first question, what suggestions do you have for extroverts aside from Zoom and Meetup? That's the toughest thing for me when the pain is high.
Oof. Okay. Because I'm definitely an extrovert. So I rely on FaceTime a lot, and connecting with other social media platforms with people with disabilities. What I love about that is when you FaceTime, you can figure out different activities to do. So I'm an artist, and a couple of my friends, what we'll do is set up paint nights, which basically we pick a night, grab a drink, have a canvas, and do art. And that's what we do. There are a lot of ways where you still can be, enjoying things. Just have to think outside the box. And we're really grateful for technology. So just get a little creative, and you can think of things like you could play some type of game while you're on FaceTime or whatnot. You can do movie watches. I know it's not the same as going out, but it's other options, especially if you're in chronic pain, you're not feeling well, etc.
So we had a couple questions about your book, but I know you answered some of them. One question we had: who sets the price of the book, and do you make any money from it? What did it cost you? Apologies if I missed this question, but I did want to make sure I asked it.
Those are great questions.
Mm-hmm.
So really, the setting price of the book was something that I worked with my editor and publisher with, and he was really able to explain and break it down to me where that cost comes from, both from an ebook and a paperback. The cost for the whole process of the book.
It could be an estimate.
I can't even fully give that to you because it's nothing outrageous. I just can't think right now. But what I've learned is you can find editors, do your research where some of them will charge just by the hour or charge by the project. One other thing you can do is look into different art schools and see what students are graphic designers. And it may be worth reaching out to them and doing freelance and get creative on there. Sometimes with certain publishing firms that are that hybrid, they have it where it's like an all-in-one. So they will help with the cover design and certain things like that. With self-publish, what's great about that is the least amount of a cost. And that's really easy. And Amazon will help you with that. My recommendation is if you're going to want to write a book and self-publish, hands down, do it. Have someone read over it before you have it submitted, because you want to make sure the tenses are accurate. You want to make sure there's no redundancy, things aren't clear. So that's like my biggest recommendation is definitely have a copyright editor come in and review it. And Amazon is amazing when it comes to self-publishing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We actually already had at least one or two people in the comments who said they've purchased the book while we've been on this live. So,
oh, yay. That just made my heart so happy.
Hey. Jim, do you have any questions?
Well, Tracy would like to give away 2 books this evening. And I think the easiest way is, and we'll deal with the tie, but I would like to know who has a birthday coming up that's very soon. Put it in the chat and we'll pick the 2 closest birthdays.
Let's see. Drum roll. Oh,
All right.
October.
And 2.
October 22nd.
Happy belated birthday, see?
Happy belated.
How do you keep the bad thoughts out of your head when you
Oh,
can't?
someone's birthday's tomorrow.
Who's?
Hello.
Jennifer.
Happy early birthday.
I'm going to try to make sure I'm not saying last names on live.
Happy birthday, Jennifer.
Yes.
Woo.
Uh-oh. Because we had one yesterday, we have one tomorrow.
Oh.
There's so many options.
Oh my gosh.
This is a close one.
Who's picking?
No, I'm letting you and Jim do it. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
We will definitely.
Alexis, we do the 13th and we do the 15th. So
all right. So Cassie and Jennifer are our winners. If you 2 of you want to send me a message here on AirMeet with your address, we'll be sure to get it over to Tracy. And yeah, so please send me a message here in AirMeet. And if you have trouble with the message, I can also put my email address in here too. We'll make sure we get it over. But yay!
So, there's one question before we go. Can I answer? Someone wrote.
Yep, I did see that question pop up. You want to take it?
It says, yeah. How do you keep the bad thoughts out of your head when you can't take the horrible, debilitating pain anymore and you're running out of fight? I can't even imagine what you were experiencing, and I am so sorry. I want to challenge you to grab a paper and a pen and write. Get it all off your chest. It doesn't matter what it says. It could be things that are just so dark you need to write it down. And I'm going to bet you, once you write it down, you're going to feel like there's a brick lifted off your chest. Try that. Or another thing you can do is always like scribble if you wanted to, or just kind of doodle. Sometimes just let your wrist do the talking. So I hope that can help a little bit, but utilize art. On the days where it was very, very dark for me, writing was my lifesaver. And once I wrote everything down, what I can say is I was able to think clearer and feel like myself again. So that may be something to think about. And if it's something you wrote and you want to rip it up, absolutely do it. So that's just my food for thought for that. That was a really good question.
What is the new suicide hotline? Is it 988?
There's a text number. Let me. Yep. And do you want me to get the suicide hotline number too?
I think, is it 988?
Yep, if you people put it in the chat.
That's, again, last resort.
Yeah.
Is that you could call that.
Yeah.
But I think Tracy said a great thing. Just express it. Express it.
Yeah.
Try to find someone who you could be with.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong. Just get it out of you, because the more you stuff it up inside, it's going to do more harm than good.
There you go.
Tracy, I think you hit a 10, my dear.
Thank you.
This was amazing. Thank you so much, Tracy. And these tips are great for everyone. Definitely our CRPS warriors are definitely taking all this in, but this is great advice for everyone.
Alexis, did you ask me to wear my hat again?
Ooh, it looks good. It's good color on you.
Good, Jim.
That's good.
Good.
We have so many resources and items and just so many things on the RSDSA website. So, of course, be sure to check it out. I also put a link in the chat in order to subscribe to our newsletter. I'll be sure to add that as well. But once again, definitely want to thank Tracy for joining us.